Hello and welcome to another Spanish lesson with me, Eva. Today, as promised in the previous lesson, I will help you pronounce those Spanish vowels like a native speaker. Ready? Okay, so the vowels in Spanish are exactly the same as in English. Okay, in English, A, I, E, O, U, and in Spanish, A, E, I, O, U. Okay, I'm going to write them here. A, E, I, O, and U. So we're dealing with exact same vowels, 5 vowels in English, A, I, E, O, U, and 5 in Spanish, except they are not A, I, E, O, U, they are A, E, I, O, U. And here you already see the first difference, okay, or the first problem an English speaker might have. A, you're dragging it out. I, it's long. O, A, E, I, O, U, they're much longer in English, okay? In Spanish, they're very short, they're very crisp, okay? So if you want to sound like a native Spanish speaker, keep them short, keep them crisp, okay? A, E, I, O, U. That's all there is to them, okay? In some textbooks or learning material for Spanish aimed at English speakers, when they try to help you with the pronunciation, they will write it, they will break down a word in syllables and write it so that an English speaker reads it as close to Spanish as possible. And a word like hola, for example, no? Hello or hi. A word like hola may be written as O and then la, okay? Hola, hola, hola. This H here is my pet peeve. I don't like it when the intentions are good. I know they're trying to help, but it just sets you on the wrong path. And you drag this O into O and La into La. And that's not how the Spanish say hola. It's a very short word. Hola. O is short and A is short, okay? And if you see it written like this, or something like this, I don't know, maybe O is without the H, I don't know. If you see it written with these H's, you will be tempted to drag it out and make it longer, okay? So I would say stay clear of this kind of help. That's my advice. It might work for some people, but I really think it sort of sets you up for really bad pronunciation, because Spanish vowels, as I said many times before, and I'm going to say it again, are very short and crisp. Hola, okay? So that's the first thing to remember. Always keep them short. Another, I don't know, word is, I think I mentioned it in the first lesson, puedo, okay? Puedo ends in O, and that's a really tricky one, because I often see or hear puedo. Oh, no, it's not puedo. Puedo, just puedo. It ends with a, once you say O, you stop. You don't need to say U. Oh, puedo. No, O, and that's it, okay? So again, if you ever see these H's added to the end of vowels, don't ignore it. Don't. You will end up speaking or pronouncing Spanish vowels badly. Okay, you have to keep them short. You have to keep them crisp. Okay? Now, another thing that obviously I understand where it comes from is that you try to get creative sometimes, no? You maybe see but you pronounce it as E because in the English word that looks very similar to the Spanish one, you pronounce it as E, okay? But you have to forget about the words that you already recognize because, again, they look very similar to the English ones, and approach Spanish words as a Spanish person would, okay? Not as someone who's thrilled to have recognized a word and assumes, oh, well, if it looks the same, I'm sure it sounds the same, okay? So you have to be very careful with that. What will help you with this? What I said yesterday, and also in the first lesson, when we talked about the alphabet, that one letter is always one sound. Never mind the few exceptions that we talked about already. One letter is always one sound and always the same sound, okay? So A will always be A, and that's never more true than with the vowels. A will always be A and nothing else, no exceptions here. E will always be E, a very short E and nothing else. E will always be E, a very short E and nothing else. And I know I'm getting a bit repetitive, but I will continue. O will always be O and a very short O and nothing else. And the same goes for U. U will always be only U, a very short one, and nothing else. Okay? So please, when you see Spanish words, when you're reading a text and you're reading it out loud, or maybe you're not even reading, maybe you're just speaking, but you know how the words that you're speaking are written. If they have A, just say A. If they have E in them, just say E. Okay? Don't get creative. In English, and again, for the Spanish speakers, reading English is a nightmare because you might have, I'm going to write some English words now just to make my point. You might have this and it's bow. You change one letter, not even a vowel, just the initial letter. You change one letter and you go from bow to do. You change it again, and now it's rough. You change it again, and you have cough. Bow, do, rough, cough. Very different pronunciation, and yet all you've changed is the first letter, the initial. For the Spanish, this is impossible, okay? A Spanish person, if this is bow, then this is dao, and this is rao, and this is cow, okay? Because you've only changed the first letter, okay? So something like this in Spain, in Spanish, does not exist, okay? The same letter will always represent or be pronounced by the same sound, okay? So don't be creative when it comes to reading or speaking Spanish, okay? Just stick to that one sound that the letter represents, okay? That the letter stands for, and you will be okay. Again, as I said earlier, I know exactly where it's coming from. I know it's not easy when you see a word that starts with P-R-E, okay? Even if it's a word you don't understand, but you recognize this syllable or this prefix or whatever, and you will be tempted to say pre. Predisposed is a word in English that starts with P-R-E. whatever, I can't think of any now. This is not E, this is E. Okay, so you have to say E in Spanish. For example, when you're getting quotes from different providers, different professionals or companies, you ask for this, presupuesto. Again, this O is not O, it's not presupuesto, it's presupuesto. But what I wanted to point out is this E. Okay, you will be tempted to say presupuesto, presupuesto. Okay, no, it's pre. Okay, as I said, E is always E. Even if you recognize it as something familiar, don't just assume that it will be pronounced the same way as in English. Okay, another word, I don't know, Europe, no? Yes. In English, this is Europe, but in Spanish, it's not Europa, or the currency is not euro, it's euro or Europa, okay? So again, even if you recognize these chunks, don't assume that they will be pronounced the same way in Spanish, okay? Always think, which letters do I see? And how do I need to pronounce them, okay? It's really very simple. Once you learn that there is a golden rule and you stick to it, and then you learn those few exceptions where you have to be a little bit more careful, okay? But don't just assume that it sounds like an English word, okay? Or, I don't know, university, no? In Spanish, it's not universidad, it's just universidad. There's no U, there's just U. So universidad, okay? You will see this word, you will say, ah, I know what it means, and then you will just assume that you also know how to pronounce it, okay? So just pronounce the way you see it, okay? Universidad. Okay, now there's a very good way of or exercise to practice this and really learn to just stick to A, E, I, O, U. Okay? What you need to do when you, okay, let's forget about this, these are English words. When you see a Spanish word, just maybe highlight or underline the vowels in it, okay? And I don't want to use these. I will use something a bit more simpler for you. For example, hospital, okay? Hospital in Spanish is spelt, written the exact same way. So you would write it like this. It's not hospital, it's hospital. Okay, as you know, H is silent, so we don't pronounce it. It's just hospital. Now, what you need to do is underline or highlight the vowels, okay? And here you have O, I, and A, okay? And just say O, I, A a few times, just the vowels. O, I, A, just so that you train your brain, train your muscles to just say them, pronounce them short and crisp, okay? O, not O. I, not I. And A is not A. It's just O, I, A. O, I, A. O, I, A. And when you've done that a few times, then you say hospital. So you start with O, I, A, say it a few times, and then hospital. And then you can say hospital without breaking it up like this, okay, into syllables. But to start with, just take out the vowels O, I, A, and just repeat them. Keep them short, keep them crisp, and when you're confident, you say the whole word. Hospital, okay? Same thing with música. Again, another word that you might be tempted to say música because you recognize it, you know it. You might say música. It's not musica, okay? Again, take out, underline or highlight the vowels u, I, a. Repeat them a few times. U, I, a. U, I, a. And when you're confident that they are short, that they are crisp, say música. Música. And then música, okay? Yeah, so anyway, this is just an exercise for you to really practice the vowels. Again, 5 vowels, 5 sounds, always the same sounds, and always very short and crisp, okay? So 2 sort of tips for you: keep them short, keep them crisp, and don't get creative like you might in English, okay? Spanish vowels are always pronounced the same way. Good? Okay, good. I'll see you again in the next lesson. We are moving away from letters and sounds in the alphabet. In the next lesson, I will start show you the Spanish numbers, single digit numbers only, from 0 until 9. Okay, so as always, if you're enjoying these lessons, if you're finding it easy to understand and to learn with me, you can like the video, you can subscribe to the channel, you can hit the bell button, and this way you will be notified, hopefully, when a new lesson, when a new video is published. And for any questions, anything that you want to share with me, please just use the email address I'm going to leave below in the description box. The comment section will be closed because I just don't have time to for everything. So I hope you don't mind, but any comments, any questions are welcome. Just use my email, okay? Okay, take care and see you in the next lesson.